Hey guys, it's Kyle with Grassroots POV. Welcome back to the third edition of the Grassroots Pod, where today I'll be going over my experience at the USL Championship Final and go into a little bit of the off-season plans as well. I'm going to start off just kind of breaking down the game a little bit technically and just kind of the facts of the match. As Pittsburgh went into Tulsa, won their first ever USL Championship, so congrats to them. Then I'm going to talk a little bit about the atmosphere, which was wild, and then I'll kind of touch on a few elephants in the room, as a lot of the protests and a lot of the way USL handled this kind of made some headlines for the wrong reasons, or they're at least just being critiqued. And then on a more positive note, just want to talk about the city of Tulsa and the people and how much I enjoyed my time there throughout the season. But yeah, it should be a fun episode. For the match, I'll just be honest, the match itself was a bit of a snooze fest, even standing in the supporter section. The tension made it entertaining, but not a single goal in 120 minutes, and there really weren't a ton of clear chances. They were really few and far between. A lot of crossing, but a lot of great defending on this crosses. But what Riley and I had said on the Goals TV podcast, that he was nice enough to have me on to preview the match, was kind of what happened. And it's for a league that was getting on the main CBS channel, you obviously would like to have a more entertaining and aesthetically pleasing match for the casual fan that might not be the biggest soccer fan, but just wants to tune in. So it might not have been the most entertaining match for a casual fan, but I do think that there was a beauty in the way that really you couldn't separate the two teams, and these were clearly the two most deserving teams, and you really saw it with, again, really just got decided on one missed pen. Really wasn't anything to separate the two sides. Eric Dick, man of the match, made a huge save right before the half, and Pittsburgh had hit the bar off kind of like a weird shot cross-looking delivery earlier. However, other than that, it was just a really well-defended match, and Pittsburgh did exactly what they needed to do, and kind of what I was talking about in a lot of the preview, where, again, I didn't think it would come in the form of penalties necessarily, but they kept the game close, didn't go down, didn't let it get away from them, and then they took their opportunity with, the one penalty that was saved that, again, wasn't the best shot from Lukic. I think he would be the first to tell you that. But with his heroics, it's definitely not his fault that they fell short in the final. But Pittsburgh did exactly what they needed to do. Survive and take that one chance, which Eric Dick did. And again, that's why I think he very well deserves man of the match for in-game saves, a lot of his coverage on these crosses that were just non-stop getting thrown in, and also making the deciding save. In my opinion, you could have also given the man of the match to either Beto Udrash or Sean Suber. In my opinion, I think they were both great as well. Eric Dick definitely deserved it, just with the flashiness of the saves, everything like that. But both of those center backs played so well in the back line the entire night, very high rated by pretty much every site, and I think anybody that could really watch the game and has a basic understanding of soccer. It was just Tulsa never really had these clear chances. And they defended really well, and to top it off, two center backs, how often do you see this? Two center backs were the last two deciding penalties for Pittsburgh. It was, I believe, Suber with a rocket into the corner, and then Beto finished it off. So you could have given man of the match to either of them as well, but I do think that Eric Dick in the end was a very deserving and fitting man of the match. On the Tulsa side, similar sentiments, obviously just with a sadder result. Their back three were great all match, especially Pierre and Batista. Batista continues to be one of my favorite players to watch in the league, and he was one of those really good pickups this offseason, and a long list of those for Tulsa. So, just in general, again, it takes a little bit of a sicko, but if you really like defending, this might have been the most entertaining match you could have gotten. In general, there's really not that much more to say technically and more with the actual in-match analysis. It was a match that probably would have been scoreless another 24 hours if penalties never existed, which showed, again, how deserving both of these sides were to be in that spot. And fittingly, it came down to a single save penalty that sealed Pittsburgh's fate, and they win their club's first ever USL Championship title. So now shifting gears a little bit to the stands, the atmosphere was unreal. Tulsa really showed out throughout the entire stadium, from the supporters to even the lawn and the kind of way outfield seats that aren't the best views at a baseball stadium, but just lined with standing room throughout the entire place. And it has to be near some kind of record. I haven't seen any official attendance come out from either USL or John Morrissey, but it has to be at least near some kind of record. And I spoke to multiple people after the match as well that either own businesses or work in them or something, and they were just on breaks, or maybe it wasn't as busy during the match, but the amount of people, too, I talked to at least 5 that all kind of just went up to the stadium and were like, oh, hey, like, do you mind if I come through? And it was like extra time. So the stewards or the people at the gate were like, yeah, no, go ahead, and just kind of chill in the standing room. So I think it'll probably be more than it's even reported, which I feel like with USL sometimes you look at these numbers and you're like, I think that's reported a little bit inflated. But I think this could be kind of the reverse, where just with the standing room and everything, such a cool atmosphere, not just with the sheer size of the crowd, but also just the intensity. I can't express how vital it is for the atmosphere and overall brand as the USL grows for so many Pittsburgh fans to travel, a lot of them by bus for nearly 20 hours one way, to show their support. Sitting in the Tulsa supporter section with a buddy of mine, Gage, or Scissortail Shirts, as you guys might know him, look him up on Instagram, really cool content. I was obviously gutted for the Tulsa fans. You know, when I do a lot of these matches, I kind of cosplay as one of these supporters because it's how you really get the authentic experience. At the same time, not trying to diminish and be like, oh, I'm some diehard Tulsa fan. But, you know, sitting in the section, you're a little bit bummed. You're there with your buddies, all this stuff. And, again, even as an objective fan, it's tough to see. But it was so cool. With that being said, it was so cool to see the Riverhounds traveling fans for that much travel to get rewarded. And I'm sure that feeling of knowing all the travel you had and still had after the match, that had to have been like the biggest out-of-body experience, like in a good way, ever. I just feel really, you know, I'm just so happy for them. And you could tell when you were in the post-game celebrations, just walking around the city after, those weren't casual fans. You're not taking a 15-plus hour bus ride if you're just like, oh yeah, I kind of like the Riverhounds. No, this meant as much as, and again, I got to be careful when I say this, maybe not as much, but it's, for some of these fans, this was probably just as much as the Steelers winning a title. So, it was just really cool to see that emotion come out from the traveling fans, especially when they came in such big numbers. At the end of the day, these were 2 perfect fan bases to be showcased on the national scale. One part of the CBS broadcast, before I get into a little bit of the negatives, not necessarily with the broadcast, but other stuff, I really enjoyed watching it back. Obviously, it was at the game, so I didn't see it live, but they really captured the crowd in that sense really well, and I feel like that's a huge thing, especially when the on-field product might not be the most entertaining in a match like this. It was really cool to kind of see them cutting to all the different fans and these different shots, so I think that was one thing that CBS did really well. Alright, this is the section I'm sure a lot of you are waiting for, but I got to address some massive elephants in the room. Not everything's all sunshine and rainbows with this final, even with how big of a spectacle it was. So first off, the USL players used the national attention to push their very worthy cause, something that was really cool to see. Pre-game, they walked out in black shirts instead of their normal uniforms or pre-game kind of outfits. That called out the U.S. for its lacking player standards in general. The message was clear before we worry about promotion relegation and the likely financial troubles or just challenges that might come from that. The league needs to improve player pay, benefits, and just overall treatment. And one aspect, if you're not on social media as much or were watching the broadcast, that they didn't really show it. They showed it like very briefly, but not anything that was on the signs. After waiting in a long line for the bathroom at halftime, I came back to the supporters section in the 83 United and saw everybody holding up these signs. Now, I wish I had folded one up and brought it back to show it, but I have pictures online. I'll probably attach one here. But basically echoing the same sentiment, worry about player standards before you worry about promotion relegation. The players' concerns, in a way, were very justified, and they already are justified, but the comparison of the USL Championship's post-game trophy ceremony, even compared to the USL League One's last week in Knoxville, where it was this whole confetti, and it's this whole big stand, and it's this big celebration, and I get that Pittsburgh is on the road, but regardless, you still have all that in place. And I've never seen a league deliberately, I don't know whether it was deliberate or they just didn't have it in general. I can't imagine if Tulsa would have won and it's just like, oh cool, so everybody's just gonna kind of walk over, no ceremony, no nothing like that. I've seen legitimately more extravagant and ceremonious, like, post-game trophy celebrations and ceremonies at 12-year-old youth tournaments in Southern California, where you play like 4 games, 5 games in 2 days. So just a weird look. Look on the USL Players Association website and also social media. They released a post the other day about sort of comparing. It's the 2 leagues, 2 different finals, and how it's different. Again, I get the trophy ceremony is not what their necessarily top priority is. They want better benefits, better health care, all this kind of stuff. But it's just kind of fitting that they made this night into a big protest, and they were kind of shown to be right almost immediately. At the end of the day, I get it's a more complicated issue than just pay us more and we don't want to. However, moments like that with the ceremonies and stuff make even the biggest devil's advocate, it's really hard to disagree with the player's position. As USL has shown countless times that in certain spots they are capable of delivering proper facilities, treatment, pay, and so on. It's just not common enough. All right, I want to end it on a positive note here. So I just want to talk about Tulsa for a second. Not the team, I've done enough of that, but the fans and the city as a whole. I've traveled all over the country to these different soccer cities and cultures over the last few months. Been to places like Portland, where they have crazy following, Lancaster, Pittsburgh, Knoxville, so many more, and they're all like this really fun time for the most part. Each spot has its own circumstances. So it's similar to these travel vloggers that you'll see, where they get comments calling them out when they criticize a place. But as long as it's your experience, you know, you're going to have a different experience based on the certain circumstances than somewhere else. For example, with Riverhounds, I was only there for one night. It was as I was kind of making my way across the country, and it was a Tuesday night game against Miami that I think was like an hour earlier than it usually would have been. So again, I still had a great time, but you don't have that same experience as, say, going to a Portland Hearts of Pine, staying there for 2 nights, having the whole pre, during, and post-game kind of festivities. So it's different experiences lead to different opinions on these places, but I do understand that a lot of it's subjective. I say all this to say that Tulsa's match day experience on the 2 Saturday games that I went to, playoff matches, got the whole day, was in there for a night before, at least the first one, kind of had a few days in Tulsa, got the lay of the land, just smiling faces everywhere. The supporter section is a full-on family. I get that's cheesy, but it really is. Their pre-game stuff, they're always inviting the other supporter section. They have this really unique kind of family vibe to it that is very like Oklahoma in a way, I would say, at least from an outsider's perspective. But just in general, I also just want to thank Katie and Gage for kind of showing me around. They're part of the 83 United, the main supporters group, and just how fun they helped make it. And also, I mean, it wasn't too hard because it's just Tulsa is that much fun, especially at these matches. So again, I really just want to thank them for kind of introducing me to a lot of the 83 United and just making it an amazing couple of weekends in Tulsa. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned throughout the next couple days. It might be Thanksgiving or Friday where I might put out a video. I was getting more horizontal stuff to kind of, I want to get the YouTube back up going again, especially during the off season, and kind of create some content and things like that. So there should be kind of a POV from the stands, kind of higher quality than my usual vertical that I have to zoom in on if I'm on YouTube. Sort of video coming out in the next few days, hopefully either Thanksgiving or on Friday. But just in general, I'm also trying to do a weekly podcast, probably coming out on Tuesday or Wednesday each week. Next week, I've already talked to a few fan bases and stuff like that and fans from these places, but doing a USL League One roster updates, which were mostly announced Monday. I'm recording this on Monday. I want to do one where I get, even if it's just 5 to 10 minutes, I want to talk to a supporter from each of these clubs and get their perspective. Because again, I'm covering Championship, I'm covering League One. I like to say I'm like very well versed on the league, but I don't know all these players and, you know, maybe weird stories that, oh, they really are tied to this community, hate to see them go, or even glad to see them go, things like that. So the main ones are that I still would like to have people, if you could reach out or I'll be reaching out, or whatever, is Omaha, Tormenta, Charlotte, Greenville, Richmond, and Westchester. So if any of you guys that are fans of those teams and have good knowledge about the roster and the roster moves that just got announced, please reach out. I'd love to hop on like just a 5 to 10 minute Zoom and get your perspective on that. But in general, thank you so much for watching. Gonna start posting more content on YouTube and kind of get it going. So I'll see you guys later.